Okay, a quick look at the central nervous system. So the nervous system is made up of the spinal cord and the brain. So let's look at the brain, the function of the brain. The brain is made up of the medulla oblongata. The medulla oblongata is involved with responsible for involuntary reflex actions such as breathing, that is for respiration. Then we can talk of heartbeat, swallowing, sneezing, even coughing, among other involuntary reflex actions. Then we can talk of the brain in terms of the cerebellum. So the cerebellum is responsible for coordination of muscles. Then we can talk of voluntary motor movements or muscle movements. So that's the cerebellum as part of the brain. Then we can talk of the thalamus as part of the brain, and that is responsible for organizing data, or information, sensory information that is coming into the brain. It is then organized by the thalamus and then sent to the designated parts of the brain. Then we can talk of the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus is responsible for homeostasis or regulation of temperature, among other among other functions. Then we can talk of the cerebrum. Sorry, the cerebrum. The cerebrum is responsible for. Or it is first. Let's look at it in division. It is divided into the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere. So it is also divided into cortex or lobes. So we can talk of the frontal lobe. The frontal lobe of the cerebrum is responsible for emotions, memory, and reasoning. Then we can talk of the parietal lobe as part of the cerebrum. It is responsible for sensation. Every sensed information is then organized by the cerebrum. Then we can talk of the occipital lobe. The occipital lobe is very simple. It is responsible for vision. Every information that is coming from your eyes, information that is associated with the sense of sight is involved. It deals with by the occipital lobe. Then we can talk of the temporal lobe as part of the cerebrum. So it is responsible for hearing, language, as well as memory. So this is a quick look of the central nervous system, but we cannot say we have talked of the central nervous system without looking at the spinal cord. So the spinal cord is responsible for, it is made up of the neurons. So the transportation of information to and from the brain, that is from different parts of the body, where the information is or the stimulus is sensed. Then the sensed stimulus or external energy is then transported or relayed by the sensory sensory nerves. Then it's passed to the what do we call it, the interneurons. Then the interneurons relays the information to the motor neurons, then to the brain. So the spinal cord is responsible for